I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Sage. I'm joined by my buddy Patrick McCray,
What is
author,
Man in Black what? Oh, hi.
author of the Dark Shadows Book Unbound. We're here to discuss episode 1231. Patrick, we're here, buddy. We are here at the flashback.
I know. I can't
Lewis,
believe this
Lewis,
was
Lewis Edmonds does the opening, does the narration, and we're with my opening question with this with Brutus Collins. I mean, Lewis Edmonds has played a lot of really good characters. Where do you rank Brutus among the other characters he's played?
the most consistent from episode to episode.
Yeah.
Because he's only in one, sort of. It's like the Eighth Doctor, I think is my favorite. Because he's only in a TV movie. He's wonderful. Not only does he have such incredible command of everything he's doing, he is a multi-vector assault of evil. He's a brilliant businessman. He's intensely charismatic and a master of the occult. I think he could send Judah Zachary packing.
Yeah, I think he's very cleverly created by the writers here and very well perfected by Lewis Edmonds. I give the if you missed the Judah Zachary arc, like if you've missed the Count Potoki arc, take a lot of the characters. If you missed, the whole Quentin in the occult, where Quentin was obsessed with the occult, take sort of all those characters and somewhat roll them into one, and you somewhat get Brutus Collins, but his power doesn't come from a hand. His power strictly comes from the knowledge of having power of the occult. He's read the occult books. He's mastered the occult explicitly. He doesn't just dabble in it. Like,
Did you ever see The Raven?
Yeah, like James Forsythe says, I know you dabble in the occult. And he goes, yeah, I do dabble a bit. And he's like trying to be modest. He doesn't just dabble. He's a master of it, which I like.
Did you ever see The Raven?
Yes.
With Vincent Price?
Yes.
This totally reminds me of like Scarabus and the other one that, the Scarabus is one of them. And then there's the one played by Boris Karloff, or maybe he's Scarabus. I don't know. But, Vincent Price and Boris Karloff. This is their level of sorcery. It's even the same kind of costume.
Yeah, he's dressed in your traditional all black villainry look. But, I gotta give credit to Keith Prentice too, because his narration as James Forsythe going into the past was really good. And he says about Brutus of what he heard about him, that he was a fair man. It was actually Constance who introduced them. So you get the sense of why he hates Constance for betraying him for her brother. And you're sort of asking the question, okay, how much did Constance not only betray James Forsythe, but how much did she really know about her own brother? And I love the answer you get in this flashback. What did you think of all
that? He is a brutal guy.
Yeah.
And he sets an incredibly high bar for a Collins later on. I think it's because he knows that if he is the best of the Collinses and he is this evil, the line will never get better than that.
Yeah, he's really evil. And it's really, you're sort of wondering how evil Constance sort of is in this whole arc, because James Forsythe tries to kill her in Morgan's body. And okay, yes, Constance is not the greatest person in the world. What she really is a really bad judge of character for her own brother. I mean, that's sort of her worst crime in a sense. And she actually believes her brother that James Forsythe left. She's believing that her brother just dissolved the partnership and all that, which is just like, wow, you really, again, here's a guy who treated his own kids not too well. So it's not just James Forsythe and Amanda that set this curse. It's a lot of things. And you get all that within the course of this episode, even though you don't meet any of Brutus's kids. You get the point of his kids don't like him. They'd rather see him hanged or in jail because he's a cruel man. And James Forsythe is somebody who's getting cheated by him, and he wants to know where the books are. We find out that Amanda Collins knows where the books are. That where the books are is they're in the room that is that becomes the cursed room. So that's where the room is originally important. It's where the secret records are kept.
And doesn't he have a bed in there already?
Yeah, he actually does.
If you see the secret books room rocking, don't bother knocking.
Yeah, you're right. He has a bed, and plus behind the bed is the door to the downstairs where the records are. And you see the two tables that Amanda and James are going to be displayed on. Their bodies are going to be displayed on. He puts a curse on them that they will never rest, even though they are dead. But he also, because his sister betrays him too, she's shocked that he resorted to murder. And I love Grayson Hall's performance in this episode because she really delivers as I mean, she always delivers, but I love her portrayal of Constance. What did you think, Patrick?
No, I'm not sure I found it to be quite as remarkable as you did. So I would like to know what was it about Grayson's performance that caught your attention so much?
A lot of things. She's somebody, before we find out how gullible she really is, we find out how loyal she really is to her brother. And we've seen loyalty within the Collins family, but we've also seen mistrust too.
Sure.
Here we see, in a lot of ways, we see absolute loyalty. Sort of, I won't say it was quite the Aristide loyalty, but it's close. It's close.
They would have to have a very special bond for that.
And I love how she spies on Amanda and James, and she reports it right to her brother. So you get the sense she's loyal. She believes in her brother, and she believes that he is this good, honest person who is misunderstood. And what she is, she's a gullible sucker. She believes him. She believes in him.
All occult geniuses are just that. They're just misunderstood. I've said it for years to the neighbors when they come by with the torches and pitchforks. Just misunderstood. Here are some lottery numbers. Go try it on some scratch offs. Go away.
Oh my God. But I really love her portrayal as a character because she gets all this across in one episode. And it's really well done by Grayson. I mean, she is a hell of it. I mean, we know how great of an actor she is. We've seen her as Julia Hoffman. We've seen her as Magda. But I dare say, for one episode, Constance is one of her most underrated characters because she just nails it in all one episode. The facial expressions, the loyalty to her brother, and then the shock to find out the truth. Her brother really is this son of a bitch that everybody says he is.
You remember when Conan O'Brien was told that Jay Leno was going to come back in and replace him on The Tonight Show? Do you remember that Conan realized he had this big budget that was allotted just to his show that was supposed to stretch out the entire year, and that if he didn't spend it all, it would just be gone? It feels like that's what's happened with Dan Curtis. Says, we're going to do a big flashback, 1680, new costumes, new set dressing, whole 9 yards, special effects and all. Gee, Dan, that's great. I guess you're assuming the show's going to run for another 6 months. 6 months, hell, we're going to do it for one day. ABC's money, watch it burn.
You ever see the Teen Titans episode? There's a Teen Titans episode where Robin gets money from Bruce Wayne. He says it's for a crime lab, but it's really not. It's for something else. And like Beast Boy takes the money and he throws it in the air. He goes, let your down payment fly. And Robin's like, no, do not let your down payment fly. That's Dan Curtis. Let your down payment fly.
Yeah. I really think he had gotten the news. It was like, look, we're going to spend a ton of money. Either it's going to raise the ratings, or they'll regret they ever heard of Dan Curtis. One or the other. Reed, you turned me into a monster. Wait till I get my hands on the Yancey Street Gang. He basically is Ben Grimm in a lot of ways.
What? By the way, I do like the 1680 costumes. What's your favorite costume in 1680?
I think the fact that they still managed to give everyone appropriate colors. I really like the colors on the women, the very jewel tone colors they use. But this brings us to something. I talk about it in the daybook. Does this go back so far in time that it no longer feels like Dark Shadows? I can argue pro and con on this. But what do you think?
No, I don't think it does. I think it feels very much like Dark Shadows every way. And the reason I say that is we've both seen Dark Shadows from its very beginning, and that's when Victoria first arrived. And when you look at this episode, it goes back to a love triangle in a sense, but we also know that there's a cursed room. And really, Dark Shadows became this supernatural, powerful gothic soap opera when Barnabas arrived. You also had the Phoenix prior to that, which was a really good arc. You had the appearance of Josette prior to that. So Dark Shadows always built up, whether it was on accident or not. And yeah, I know the writers didn't know where they were going at times.
Just ignore that. That's a distraction.
Right, I know. But with this, they know where they're going, and they really do a great job of setting up what's always been Dark Shadows. And that is, yes, we have a love triangle, but we also have a curse that's not just on one person, it's on the entire family. And we're not going to answer who it's set by right away. We're going to sort of pull a Val Luton on you. We're going to let you interpret it, and you may be wrong on your interpretation. And we find out that it's Brutus, and for the first, like I said before, for the first time in Dark Shadows history, it is a Collins who curses the Collins family, and it's really well done.
It really makes me feel like this is the Prime universe.
Yeah,
and that we've been spending our time in a Splinter universe, because this is the earliest we go back.
yeah.
Because when were the Bedford trials?
Well, according to the Bedford atrocities, they were pre-1840.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were like 16. Weren't they like 16 something?
Yeah, I think they were the same year that in the 1840 other timeline. I think they're sort of in the 1600s as well, in the 1600s.
And the year of this episode is what?
It's I think it's 1636. I believe I could be off on that one.
1680.
Yeah, 1680. Sorry.
All right. Well, to me, not only is this the furthest back that you go,
yeah,
but this is the deadliest. And I can almost imagine that the parallel time room was something invented by Brutus as an escape mechanism, in case he screwed up things too much in one universe. He could hop over to another universe, but he died before he could do it.
Yeah. What do you think he cast the initial spell for parallel time?
If you consider our time, the prime time universe, primary time, to be their parallel time.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, parallel time is relative.
Yeah. And yeah, to your point too, like think about when Barnabas first sees parallel time, and he sees the book of William Holland's Head Loomis. It's about the life and death of Barnabas Collins. And in that book, who's briefly mentioned? Bramwell. Well, who's in this timeline? Bramwell.
Mm-hmm.
So we're 1841 is it's pre-1970 that we see in the future. We don't know about Catherine because, well, it just doesn't happen to mention her. But we find all about Catherine throughout this arc, and her sister and everything else. So I'm with you. I think this here is just so good. I really love the flashback here. It does a really good job of setting a nice pace. And with Dark Shadows, the writers have spoiled us with these long flashback arcs. They're not spoiling us here. They're rewarding us though with one full episode, and everybody gets their character across. And I give the actors and actresses a lot of credit for doing it.
This is the box of cereal that actually has the toy you really want.
Yeah,
You know, because that never happens.
yeah.
It's the box that actually has the brass knuckles or something, you know, rather than the tattoo.
I really like that they chose Nancy Barrett to play Amber, considering that's who Amber possesses in the future, and it's not
Amber
Kath
or Amanda?
or sorry, Amanda. Sorry, I'm like
Amber's her porn star cousin.
sorry, Amanda. But I really like the fact that it's Nancy Barrett who plays it. Who got it? Who plays the lady named Day? We'll say that. No, I'm kidding. But I really like her character, and I like her outfit too. Really, really well done. Really well done, and really well dressed up. I also like. I'm with you. The women's outfits look really, really nice on this, and they're really well done. So, and I really love Brutus's outfit too. He just looks like he belongs in that time period. But so does James Forsythe as well.
Now, let me make my argument for why this doesn't feel like Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, the farthest we go back is the 1790s.
Mm.
And then there's like some pilgrim timey stuff with the trial of Judah Zachary.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, starting with that, even though we're going to call it the Georgian era, which is a reference to England, Dark Shadows always was a quintessentially American horror franchise.
Yeah.
It's about the American aristocracy,
Yeah.
you know, led by, you know, a natty and effete Canadian, but nevertheless, it's a very American show. And that the evil history of the Collinses, to me, is just something that feels very good old USA. But when we go back this far, it doesn't feel like something from America. It feels like transplanted England. And emotionally, it has a slightly different impact. And yet, it is very Dark Shadows. In fact, it is so Dark Shadows. I feel like this is the biggest tease the series ever had. Because it gets us so close to what would have been a fascinating time. What would you give for them to have done a whole 1680 flashback?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel, would that have been great?
Yeah, because what if you would have seen Brutus? Because what you don't see. There are things we've pointed out. The things you do see. You see Brutus. You see his sister. You see his wife. You see James Forsythe, obviously. Now you don't, even though Sarah is mentioned in the previous episode as Carrie Stokes, you don't see Sarah in this episode. You don't see Brutus's kids in this episode. I assume that James Forsythe's sister was killed after he was killed, because he doesn't mention about her being dead when he confronts Brutus.
Yeah, it may just be fine that she's not that important to them in the ultimate scheme.
Right. Yeah. Now, again, this is one episode too, so they have to get it all out here.
Yeah.
They have to get they have to get why the curse happened more so than anything else. And they do that. And because you don't meet Brutus's kids, that's another thing you don't meet. You don't meet them by person. They're not in this episode, literally. So it would have been really, really, really cool to see the whole arc of that time period, like we saw 1795.
What sort of a dad do you think Brutus was?
Oh, he was a dick.
You think he didn't ground them? He would lay a curse on them. Hey, Billy, can you go out and play? Nah, Dad laid a curse on me. I got duck's feet instead of legs.
Well, no, man. Don't you know why the grass is so small? One of his kids was turned into a goat. That's what that was.
from the waist up.
That's it.
As Brutus was a really perverse guy. He was just a strange man. And it was the wrong end because those goats eat and eat. It ate him out of house and home. That's a curse Brutus really regretted.
He says about he gave his kids an opportunity, and it's just like when he says that, he sounds so proud of himself that he gave them an opportunity, and you get how cold he really is. It's just Lewis Edmonds knows how to be a heel, and you love him for it.
Brutus the opportunity was he would lock the kids out of the house during a blizzard, but he'd give them a spoon made out of lead to try and dig their way back in with. A little spoon, too.
Well, what Brutus told his kids was, listen, when the snow comes out, I'll just create a giant hedge maze for you to run through, and you could chase each other with axes. That way Stephen King can rip off of us.
You are so correct. Let's do I've seen the I think Wallace did the Overlook painting with Quentin instead of Jack Nicholson in it. You should have Brutus with the beard and that collar inexplicably in like the 20s.
Somebody needs to create that now.
I agree.
Oh my God, I'd love to see that. Just Lewis Edmonds in the portrait, just in the painting, smiling ear to ear. That would be awesome. Say Overlook Hotel. Well, even David Selby. I've said this about on Penny Dreadful's podcast when you watch 1970 Quentin. I said this is the OG Jack Torrance.
My God, can you imagine?
Right?
Doesn't have far to go.
Yeah.
Parallel Time Quentin does not have far to go.
He doesn't.
But think about this. Think about how if he saw him mistreating Maggie, how severely QC2, the real Quentin Collins, would have just beaten the living crap out of because I hate Parallel Time Quentin as a person. I mean, it's an interesting character and all that, but he is the worst of the privileged domestic abusers. Yeah. And boy, Quentin Collins' second would have been a flaming sword of justice against that guy.
He would have just came in and started beating him down.
He just would have heard Maggie raise her voice once, and that would have been it.
Yep. We've seen how quickly he is into action, too. So,
and I don't think that Parallel Time Quentin has really done much in the fisticuffs department. No. I think, oh boy, would that be fun. Now, I got a question for you. Are you a mark, a smart, or a smart mark? I did my research, Jewel. I did my research.
Oh, I got for wrestling or Dark Shadows?
Apply to both.
I'm just a fan. Fan is short for fanatic. Okay, I'm just a fan. That's where I'm not somebody who. Here's one for you. Somebody once asked me on Twitter when I first joined as at Colin of on Twitter, because I started talking about Dark Shadows right away, and it's something I wanted to do, and I opened up my channel and stuff, and I said, look, anybody's welcome to come on. Somebody asked me, how do I feel about Dan Curtis and Jonathan Frid, fighting over House of Dark Shadows. It wasn't quite said that way, but how they had a disagreement because Jonathan didn't want to do the sequel. Okay, this was well before I interviewed Will and Nancy. Okay, well before. And I've always felt it's the same way I feel about John Carpenter and Mustafa Akkad's beef. It's none of my goddamn business. It's because number one, I'm not Mustafa Akkad and I'm not John Carpenter. Same thing with Dark Shadows. I'm not Jonathan Frid and nor am I Dan Curtis. It is or was between the two of them. That's where I leave it.
I once ordered a video called Mustafa's Beef in a hotel once. I later claimed it was a mistake, and maybe it was. It was very late at night.
Did it taste good?
It was not. It was not interactive to that extent.
My God.
Most of his beef. That's a restaurant you don't want to eat at.
Now for wrestling, for
I don't want to wrestle it either.
Yeah, for wrestling, I know a lot about wrestling, but I don't give the matches stars. I don't take it that seriously. I know it's fake. My mom told me it was fake after I jumped off the bed and gave the Macho Man Randy Savage elbow.
Whoa. What do you mean fake? What are you talking about?
Well, when I was a youngster, I wanted to emulate Macho Man Randy Savage. So I decided to put some pillows on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I did the pose. I was on my mom's bed, and I jumped off the bed and dropped the elbow onto the pillows. And my mom said,
Anyway.
What was I wearing?
No, Joel. That was a joke.
I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt.
Okay.
But I was a young kid. But and my mom comes in, she goes, What are you doing? You do know wrestling's choreographed, right? It's fake. It's not,
I don't know what you mean by wrestling is fake.
Wrestling's choreographed. It's predetermined.
No, that's a real sport.
No, it's choreographed.
That's pure athleticism. That's how people really act. These are not invented personalities, Jewel. I hate to be the one to tell you, it's all real. Professional wrestling is real.
Well, back in the heyday, baby.
No, I'm talking about like WrestleMania and the Junkyard Dog with his toilet toy. Remember that?
I remember
Junkyard Dog toy that had the toilet with it.
I love the Junkyard Dog. I remember he'd come down with the chain and he was swinging it. Love the Junkyard Dog. Love JYD.
Did G.I. Joe really hit the skids when they brought in Sergeant Slaughter, or did it approach its apotheosis? Was it at its best?
As a fan, when I heard Sergeant Slaughter, I was excited to hear him on G.I. Joe. So as a young fan and someone who knew what wrestling was, I can only speak for myself when I say I was excited. And I don't when I don't see Sergeant Slaughter in G.I. Joe, it sort of doesn't feel like G.I. Joe to me.
Really?
That's
fascinating. Have you talked to your therapist about this?
No, but I feel I need to.
Who would win in a fight, Bret Hart or Brutus Collins in a wrestling match?
Oh, Jesus. Now, does Brutus have his powers?
Yeah, but so does Bret Hart.
I'm going to take Bret Hart because from everything I've heard about Bret Hart and I've read, he can kick someone's ass.
Okay.
He could fight. Now, who would win in the fight, Andre the Giant or Quentin Collins?
Andre.
Or better, Andre the Giant or Adam?
Oh, now that's a really good. I think Adam.
Yeah, I think Adam.
Adam has superhuman strength. I mean, for one thing, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's maybe not as big as Andre the Giant, who is something like 9'2", but it was those last 2 inches that were fatal.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andre, because Quentin's always getting buried alive. And what is it when Andre lays on top of you, than being buried alive? I mean, it's like Bob Denver, winding up in an orgy with Mama Cass. That's what happens.
Who was your favorite wrestler growing up? Did you have one?
Favorite wrestler growing up? Probably Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Well, I was from Louisville, and he came through Louisville. And when I was watching wrestling, it wasn't quite as big. Yeah. This was before the WWF and WWE and that I knew of. I mean, so I was watching in the mid-'70s.
Well, listen, today, I wish the mid-'70s wrestling was still around because WWE sucks. Bad.
I mean, it was a vaguely more real. I mean, I think there were greater chances of actual physical harm, and things like that in the middle of the choreography.
Now there are matches that are just fun to watch because the stipulations to them, like later on in WCW, one of my favorite matches was Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. And Buff Bagwell's mother got put on a forklift. They raised it up, and whoever won the match got Judy Bagwell's mom. Or sorry, Buff Bagwell's mom.
Okay.
And Buff won the match. I just thought it was a funny concept. I was like,
it is.
Like there's somebody's mom on a forklift. Like, what the hell's gonna happen? Like, she looked like really worried up there and stuff, like she was gonna fall off, but she was fine. Oh God,
It's true.
I was really excited when Mick Foley came to WWE, and then he did his alter egos. He did Mankind. He feuded with the Undertaker for a while. Then he was Dude Love, and then when they finally did Cactus Jack in WWF at the time.
It's true. Jewel, I think we have exhausted this episode. What do you think?
What's your favorite scene in this episode overall?
Honestly, just the first wide shot in the drawing room of that Collinwood really feeling like, man, we are back somewhere we have never been before.
I have three with this. I love how they shoot the narration and do it. And I'm with you. I love when we go into the drawing room and we see Brutus for the first time as a living person. And we meet Constance. Really, really great camera work as always on DS. And when we first see the room before it's cursed, it feels creepy even before it's cursed. And the curse just adds the creepiness more.
I agree.
Really, I can't recommend 1841 enough. I know we're not done. We have some episodes to cover.
We have what? We have what about 15 episodes or so?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3,
45.
I think 14 is what we have.
All right. Let's do it. When are we doing the next one?
Let's see. How's Monday? Because I have a video tomorrow with Butch, and Sunday's the read along.
That's right. Monday's wonderful. I'll be there.
Sorry, Tuesday, because I got the Friday the 13th thing. Sorry.
Tuesday's even better.
Sorry, Patrick. I'm juggling schedules here. Oh my God. But yeah, I really love 1841 overall so far, and I really love the flashback. I love the costumes, but he's Patrick McCray. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Shop smart, shop S-smart.
That's right. Watch Army of Darkness. Link to the Dark Shadows Daybook is going to be in the description box. Patrick, you have a great and safe night, my friend.
Be seeing you.
Be seeing you. Bye.